Hey everyone, it's Lux, and this is True Crime with Lux. So before I get to today's episode, I did want to say thank you to everybody that listens. It is truly crazy to think that somebody's listening to my voice. It's still very unbelievable, so I just want to say thank you to everybody. So today, I'm going to be telling you guys about Margaret Douglas. She was born September 15th, 1919 in Akron, Ohio. She was known to be very independent and not afraid to share her opinions on things. In her early 20s, she met and married Donald Douglas on November 1st of 1958. They bought a home in Wadsworth, Ohio. Wadsworth is a pretty small town just outside of Akron. They enjoyed the small town and the friendliness of the residents. They decided early on in their marriage that they weren't ones to have kids, so they spent their marriage traveling and just spending all of their time together. They had a long and happy marriage, but unfortunately in 2000, at the age of 85, Donald passed away. Margaret was devastated. They had spent so many years, just the two of them. She didn't know who she was without her husband and best friend. She did her best and continued doing all of the things that they had done together on her own, and really living her life to the fullest. She kind of became known as the town grandma. She knew all of the kids, and they knew they could come to her if they needed anything. Neighbors would come check on her, and she felt safe. So safe, in fact, that she rarely even locked her door. In 2018, Margaret turned 98 years old. She was so excited to tell everyone and to still be so independent and able to care for herself. Being on her own for 20 years at this point after losing Donald, she was thriving. She was so excited to almost be turning 100, and no one doubted that she would make it to that milestone. Even with her independence, she would have her niece and nephew come by from time to time to kind of help with the more physical jobs like yard work and fixing things around the house and just to check on her. Now, we get to April 9th of 2018. It was one of these days where her nephew Howard was coming over to help out around the house. However, when he got there, he was really worried because people said they hadn't seen her in a while and Howard hadn't heard from her. He did have someone go by the house the previous day to check on her, but they said no one was home, so he called the police for a wellness check. Police also went by the house, and after not getting a response, they entered the home worried that Margaret may have fallen and could be hurt. They searched and called for her, but they still couldn't find her. They began asking neighbors if anyone had seen or heard from Margaret, but no one had. They searched the town and called the hospitals, but still no sign of Margaret. That night, Howard and his sister Cindy went to help the police search. They went to the house to look around to see if anything seemed out of place. They knew if she had left on her own, she had a specific pair of shoes she would wear and her red wallet, so they began looking for these items. They didn't find anything out of place at first, and her shoes and wallet were gone. They continued looking around, and Howard went to the front closet, thinking maybe she had put her shoes in there. He did find the shoes under some clothing, and he picked them up, but soon realized that Margaret was wearing them. Unfortunately, she was dead. The police started investigating and soon realized that her underwear were torn, her nightgown was open, and her bra was pushed up. Police believed it was a sexually motivated murder. Her neck had trauma, but no signs of ligature marks, so this led her cause of death being manual strangulation. Investigators said she had died and was placed in that closet a few days prior to being found. With her wallet still missing, they thought it could be a burglary. During the exam of Margaret, they found semen on her body and around the house, which confirmed that she had been sexually assaulted before being killed. Police then found an open jar of jelly, believed to have been used as a lubricant in the assault. There was no other DNA or fingerprints in the house, but investigators did collect a disposable glove from outside, and it had Margaret's DNA on the outside of it and an unknown DNA on the inside. Now, it's very common in crimes like these that the person or persons that find the body will be looked as potential suspects. So Howard and Cindy were investigated and questioned about the murder. They were soon confirmed not to be involved after a look into their cell phone records. Now investigators had to find out who would want to do such a foul and horrible thing to just a sweet old lady. They looked into whether anyone would financially gain from her death, but Margaret didn't even have a will or any life insurance. So they asked if anybody was mad or would want to hurt her. They were told by neighbors that would come by and help Margaret with things around the house when Howard or Cindy couldn't come over. His name was David, and police found his phone number and began trying to contact him so that they can question him. But they kept getting his voicemail, and he never called back. And this made police suspect he had something to hide. While police continued to search the house, hoping to find anything to help the investigation, they soon realized that there was a man that would stand on the street and just watch them and ask questions and seem to know details that hadn't been released. Police found out that this man was actually David, the person they had been looking for. Police wanted to know more about David, so they started asking neighbors what they knew about him and when they had last seen him. One recalled seeing David's car driving through the neighborhood a couple of times after Margaret's body was found. Another said that they had had a conversation with him and that David told them that he was worried because his fingerprints were all over the house from when he would come over to help Margaret with chores. David even went on the news to discuss the death of Margaret and how sad he was. However, he had yet to actually talk to the police about it. When they finally brought him in for questioning, he told them that he cared about Margaret and was devastated that she was gone. He told them that he did go by on the 8th to check on her and got worried when she wasn't home and couldn't get a hold of her. He and another neighbor had checked the house that day, worried she was hurt, but they didn't find anything. The interrogation kind of took a weird turn when David started making comments on how good Margaret looked, and she was so attractive when she was younger. Police asked if they could just go through his phone, but David said he didn't have it on him. He had left it at home. He did offer to give a sample of his DNA, though, to help the investigation. So they took the sample and were able to search through his phone eventually, all of which led them to finding out he's actually innocent. And it really surprised investigators because they thought he was a good suspect. Now, police just felt like they were starting all over. They had no leads, no suspects. They started looking into other crimes that had happened in the area and discovered there were petty crimes happening. So they started looking into them, thinking maybe they could be connected to what had happened to Margaret. They were really focused on a carjacking that had happened nearby the house. The man that was carjacked, whose name was Paul, said he had seen a young man walking up the street, and it looked like he was limping, and him, being a kind person, asked if they needed help. But when he got out of his car, the young man got in, locked him out, and drove off. When the car was found not that far away, police realized there were cameras in the area and hoped they would catch who had taken the car. What they realized was that the story they were given of how the carjacking happened wasn't exactly true. The camera showed the young man, but he wasn't limping, so they brought Paul back in to question him again, and this time he admitted that he had actually met the man on Grindr and that they were meeting up to have sex. While in the car together, the young man started to get angry and seemed to just snap, kicking Paul out of the car and then taking off. Paul didn't want to tell the police the real story because he didn't want the church he worked for to find out that he was sleeping with men. He was only able to tell police that the young man had blue eyes and a smooth complexion, but didn't know who he really was. This seemed like another wall the police were hitting because they were still no closer to finding a suspect. Tips soon started coming in, and a lot of them were about teenagers loitering in parking lots and a break-in on a construction site. While searching the construction site, police found a phone. It belonged to a teenager named Zach. Now, Zach was no stranger to police. He had a record for burglary and theft, so they brought him in for questioning. They saw that he seemed to have defensive wounds on him, and when they asked about them, he admitted to theft, but he didn't know anything about what had happened to Margaret. He did tell them that he had someone with him at the construction site, another teenager named Gavin Ramsey, and that it was actually Gavin's idea to break into the construction site. He said when they would hang out, he would just be along for the ride, and that it was all Gavin who really committed all the thefts and whose idea it was to even do them. Police soon brought Gavin in for questioning, and his mom came with him because he was only 17. They started asking him about the break-in at the construction site and other thefts in the area. Gavin actually admitted to committing all of them, saying he liked the adrenaline rush he got when breaking into places, and it had nothing to do with the things he stole. He just really enjoyed the thrill of it. So with him being so honest, police started asking about the carjacking, but now Gavin shut down, and he wouldn't say much. He asked if he could talk alone with a detective without his mom. Once alone, he told the detective that he did steal the car, and he would meet up with men from Grindr, but didn't want to talk about what they did. He claimed he met with them to steal from them as payback for them wanting to sleep with other men. Then, detectives got straight to the point and asked him if he killed Margaret. Gavin, of course, denied it. They didn't really believe him and actually worried that if they let him go, he would run away and they wouldn't be able to contact him. So since they couldn't actually hold him since he was a minor and the thefts would be handled by a juvenile court, they had to let him go. But before they did, they asked his mom if they could take a look at his phone. She agreed, and police discovered more than they thought, finding horrific things saved on his phone. While going through his phone, they found a file labeled dark, and the password, murder. In this file, they found videos and photos from April 6, 2018. They showed Gavin going into Margaret's home and watching her sleep on the couch. She woke up and realized that someone was in the house. Now, Gavin was never seen on the video, but a hand with the same glove found at the scene is on video. He didn't take any videos or photos of the actual murder, but did of the aftermath. There were images of him undressing Margaret after he murdered her and using her hand to pleasure himself. Then he put her body in different sexual positions and put his fingers inside of her. He's just absolutely foul and disgusting of a human being. The timestamp showed he was there for 2 hours doing these things to her. It also showed that he frequently would open this file and look at the photos and videos after the murder. After this discovery, they had him come back for more questioning, trying not to give away what they had found. They placed him in the interrogation room alone for a while, and Gavin had a meltdown, just laying on the floor crying like a child. Investigators came into the room and got straight to the point, saying they knew what he had done. Gavin lived nearby and said he would occasionally go over to Margaret's to ask if there was anything he could do to help her. He said he broke in that morning for an adrenaline rush. He found her sleeping on the couch and watched her for 10 to 15 minutes before waking her and pushing her onto the floor, where he got on top of her and started strangling her. He claimed he was unable to stop himself. He told them he was there for hours, but didn't want to go into detail on the sexual part of his crime. He hid her body in the closet underneath the clothes and then left when he realized it was 4 a.m. and wanted to make sure he was home before his mom woke up at 5. He said he felt nothing after what he had done, that he just went about living his life. Police soon got a warrant to search his room, and in there they found gloves that matched what was at the scene, along with Margaret's wallet. He had also wrote in a journal about serial killers, like maybe he was studying them. He wrote in there that he knew he would end up in jail one day, but still didn't feel any remorse for what he had done. He was officially arrested for her murder on April 16th, and he was charged with 4 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of murder, 1 count of kidnapping, 1 count of aggravated burglary, and 1 count of gross abuse of a corpse. He was originally sent to a juvenile detention center, but once the charges changed to charge him as an adult, they soon moved him to an actual prison. His trial began in November, and Gavin pleaded not guilty, but changed it to no contest right before his trial date. When he entered this plea, the judge asked him what he thought he had done wrong, and Gavin's response was that he caused the death of Margaret Douglas. In January, his sentence hearing was to determine if he should get life in prison with either the possibility of parole or not. Due to his lack of remorse, and that psychiatrists believed he could not be rehabilitated, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole for aggravated murder. He was also given 10 years for aggravated burglary, 10 years for kidnapping, and 1 year for the abuse of a corpse. A month after the sentencing, his attorneys tried to appeal his sentence. They believed that his age should have been considered more when talking about his ability to be rehabilitated. They also believed that the other charges should have been a part of the aggravated murder instead of separate charges. The judge denied this request and upheld the original sentencing. Now, Ohio has a new bill that states a crime committed by someone under the age of 18 and given life in prison is eligible for parole after 25 to 30 years. And at their first parole hearing, if they're denied, they're able to try again after 5 years. This bill, understandably, angered Margaret's family, who were worried that if Gavin is given the chance for parole, the board will only look at the charges and not all the horrific details of what happened to Margaret Douglas. Her family promised that if he ever gets the chance to stand before a parole board, they will be there to make sure Margaret's voice is still heard, that she is not forgotten, and that Gavin deserves to stay behind bars. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and share it with your friends. Stay safe, and I'll be talking to you next week.